Have our moments of madness?
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to tackle Social Security and that problem after we have Moments of Madness here on the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back.
Today on Moments of Madness. With the recent signing into law of Indiana Senate Bill 101, legislatively known as the Senate Enrolled Act, National Journal writer Ronald Bernstein best summed up the left's latest desperate attempt to ensure Obama's third term by proxy in 2016. The objective behind his summation is the left's need to retain at least a pen and a phone in the White House that can continue to circumvent the separation of powers should they not recapture Congress through fundraising, vote pandering, redistricting, and fraud. Brownstein pens, with the Indiana religious freedom law, Pence detonated what could be the biggest landmine facing his party in 2016, the sense that the GOP wants to reverse the cultural and demographic changes relentlessly remaking America. Brownstein reiterates, as only a media parrot can, that once again right-wing extremist factions, otherwise known as Christian conservatives, have succeeded in deviously enlisting yet another tepid establishment Republican in their quest to reinitiate the days of the Inquisition in order to thwart our first half-white president's bid to finish fundamentally transforming the United States of America. Using a 22-year-old federal law initially written by Democrat Senator Chuck Schumer and signed into law by Bill Clinton that was later diluted by the Supreme Court ruling in 1997 as an overreach into state sovereignty, several states have passed their own versions of the Religious Freedom and Restoration Act, which decrees people have a civil right to refuse to participate in activities that go against their own religious beliefs. Indiana has been the latest of 22 states to do this. Utilizing the race card as a premise from which the civil rights movement has been redefined to include anything anyone can dream up as a right, the left has introduced the war on women, which demands the right to murder unborn children and receive free birth control, all on the taxpayer dime, and the war on economic injustice, in which the wealth disparity theme has been embraced under Obama's creative destruction agenda, also known as wealth redistribution or Keynesian economics, and expanded and repackaged as new and improved by proclaiming opportunity and entitlement means the same thing. This has not been enough to once and for all bring about the left's vision of a utopian collective. The war on Christianity is the left's last leg of its progressive platform. It is a campaign designed to further redefine and rewrite American heritage and history by assigning Christian influence in government as the primary reason we are a nation of greedy, oppressing haters rather than generous, compassionate liberators. Forcing private sector enterprises to not only tolerate but condone and accept silently the immoral onslaught orchestrated by the left and subjected upon society by the homosexual activist community, we are now seeing the signs of political genocide equivalent to the early days of the Holocaust in Germany. Businesses are being marked for protests and boycotted, while their owners and CEOs are being tried and politically ostracized in the mock court of public opinion by ideological vigilantes. There is much more to the DNC's dislike of Israel than just its appeasement of Islam or its sympathy towards Palestine. Traditional Christianity stands in the way as to how a remade America should look, and it needs to be either redefined or removed. Barack Obama himself hides behind a newly fabricated shield of pseudo-Christianity, one that equates wealth redistribution and immoral tolerance as the essential elements of the gospel proclaimed by a black Jesus, while the rest of the world proclaims rainbows or validation that God is gay. Well, let us not forget another man who used this same facade as a means to an end. Hitler touted himself a Christian in the early days of his campaign. He, too, later perverted his doctrine to fit his ideological belief Jews were a problem that needed a final solution. Such it is today in regard to Christianity. Christianity remains the last barrier to tyrannical rule. It is the last reminder of moral conscience. It is the last voice that can warn of pending destruction and exile into the wilderness of enslavement. In the minds of the godless, Christianity must be eradicated in the same way Judaism was in Germany. Unfortunately, the church, for whatever reason, has spent too much time huddled within its own walls, believing if it just leaves the godless alone, they will leave it alone. Well, that isn't going to happen. It is time Christians acknowledge this. It is time to proclaim our own jihad, our own holy war in the name of Christian injustice. After all, if God is really for us, who can stand against us? What weapon formed against us can prosper? Of course, this means picking up the most effective weapon we have and wielding it. That weapon is our vote. It is time. What God has put together, let no man tear asunder. This is Jon Matthews for Moments of Madness.
right, we're back from that Moments of Madness here on the Conservative Syndicate, and this is Joe Hakos with our regular contributor, Bob Cordoza from Robert Cordoza Live. And Bob, you were telling us how you were going to fix Social Security?
Yeah, absolutely. But before I do that, I want to tell you how pleased I am to hear that Moments of Madness is bad. I thought I must have misunderstood that John was having a problem with that, and he was not going to be doing it anymore. I was really pleased to hear that we still had that.
Yeah, well, it's just technique, I think, and we're invoking very bad things to happen when we're saying stuff is going well.
Yeah, cross your fingers, right?
I got to light a candle right now, buddy. Sorry.
So listen, I want to talk a little bit about Social Security and Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
And because, every time Congress comes out and they do this 11th hour Band-Aid on Social Security and Medicare, and they talk about revamping Social Security and Medicare.
Because it's a crisis.
I'm sorry?
It's always a crisis.
Oh yeah, and they call it an entitlement. Well, the reason that it's an entitlement is that we're entitled to it. We paid for it.
Yeah,
we own it.
Yeah.
They talk about the baby boomers being the problem. Well, the truth is, right now Congress has given a 25-year fix to Social Security and Medicare. In 25 years, the baby boomers are all going to be dead. They're not going to need it anymore.
Thanks, buddy.
And you're going to come right back into the normal Social Security type situation, and we've got a larger population now than we've ever had. They're going to be working and contributing. But give this a thought. Why do we have to address this every single year? You know what? If we look at this properly, if we just say to our employers, hey, look, if you're providing medical insurance, and I'm not getting into an Obamacare thing, but since we're stuck with this, let's talk about it. If the employers are going to be required to provide medical insurance, then every employee gets this, then we shouldn't require the employer to have to double down with workers' comp. It should be covered already with the insurance that they're paying for. Now, if they don't have to pay workers' comp, which is a much larger percentage sometimes than what the employment tax is or self-employment tax is, then what they could do is they could say to the employer, look, we're going to lower your workers' comp rates, but we're not going to lower them. We're going to eliminate them.
Yes.
But we're going to increase your Social Security rate by 2 points. So basically what winds up happening is you're going to save a great deal of money on the workers' comp side, but by raising the employer's portion, only the employer's portion for Social Security and Medicare, you extend the life of Medicare the way we know it today at the spending rates we have today by 75 years.
I don't think I'll be around then.
Well, no, you won't. And except that if we're extending it at today's spending rates, and all the baby boomers that are causing the problem today are gone in 25 years, that means that we're actually going to be extending it forever. It'll no longer be a problem anymore.
Although I wouldn't mind staying around that long. That'd make me like 140 something.
I wouldn't mind it if I was coherent.
Yeah, because I'd be that guy out there just calling everybody, just screaming profanities.
Oh, yeah.
And just looking at people going, well, he's old.
Yeah. So the last thing that we have to do.
So you're talking about this that way. If I could just interrupt for just a second.
Hey, Joe, please do. I was just trying to give you a breather. You sounded like you were out of breath.
Okay. Yeah. And so what you're talking about is under the assumption that Obamacare is here to stay, and they're not going to do anything different with it because, and that's the case, then the insurance is already provided, and you don't need the workman's comp stuff because everybody's covered with Obamacare.
That's right.
So I just wanted to see if I was wrapping my brain around that because you were using big words like it and that and stuff like.
No, but you're right. And here's the issue. Even though Congress, the House and the Senate, has made all of this budget issue that's supposed to balance our budget in 10 years. Balancing the budget in 10 years.
We ought to do it in 3.
Yeah, balancing it in 10 years doesn't do anything to get it paid down. The other thing is that they're putting into that the removal of Obamacare. Well, big deal. He's going to veto that damn thing anyway. You know it's not going to work. He's not going to let that go through. And if Hillary Clinton becomes president, she's going to support that, and it'll just be a continuing fight.
Yes.
I don't understand why we continue to waste time and money in Washington, D.C. with these guys that refuse to do what's good for the country, which is move on to things that we can actually effectively have a change in.
Well, you know what they're in there for. They're only worried about one thing, and that's getting reelected. Getting elected and staying elected.
Absolutely. You know, Joe, I say that all the time. Congressmen only want two things out of life. They want to get elected and they want to stay elected.
Yeah.
Now, and neither one of those has anything to do with representing the people that actually did elect them. You know, I used to tell people that immediately upon taking the oath of office, we issue Congress what I refer to as an American distress card. That's where Congress gets the credit and we get the bill.
Yeah. Well, the thing is we could go ahead and elect new congressmen and senators, and we could change them. But you know what else we need to do? We need to change their staff. We need to change those guys, because those are really the guys that are up there staff-wise are the people. They're setting rules. They're the ones doing it.
Hey, Joe, think about this for a minute. Congress worked 117 days. The congressmen themselves worked 117 days. That's part-time. This year. Why are we paying them full-time to do a part-time job?
I don't know. Maybe they should get $15 an hour.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
You know, if you want to be in Congress, maybe you should volunteer. Maybe you should volunteer that.
Oh, that would be like public service.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, there's that concept.
And then would you then be effective if you can't be bought?
We know the answer to that one. Exactly. And there's rules for that, but they circumvent those as well. So
that's why Congress always gives themselves a raise at midnight, because everybody's asleep and nobody's paying attention, right?
But anyway.
So that's just ridiculous stuff, and they pay themselves such an exorbitant amount of money for what they actually do. Right now, I honestly, personally believe that Congress is harming this country more than they're helping it. These guys bickering amongst themselves, I don't care if they're conservatives or liberals or independents or whatever they are, they're bickering amongst themselves. They've all become obstructionists, and they refuse to look at what the common ground is to get something done that would be beneficial to the citizens of this country.
Yeah, but that's not why they're there anymore.
No.
And that is the crux of the problem. But the same thing is we being people don't do anything about it.
That's right.
That's right. 2/3 of us stay home and don't bother to vote.
Yeah, we're complacent.
Well, yeah, most people are. And the only thing that's ever going to stop that, I believe, is one thing. Not a water shortage like you have in California. That's not going to stop it. A food shortage might.
Yeah.
Start getting people hungry, and they might wake up. Stop paying for their lobster with a little EBT card, they might wake up.
Yeah, but talking about just using the water shortage as an example of legislation, Joe, for a minute.
Yeah, I talked a little bit about that at the beginning of the first hour, but I wasn't near as serious as you're going to be.
Well, yeah, probably not, because if you think about it, because it's the way legislation works. And here's the thing. Water shortages or droughts are still cyclical. We have a drought about every 20 years, and it lasts anywhere from 4, 5 to 7 years. Now we're 4 years into this last drought, but generally our droughts are about 20 years apart. Now, we know that we have these things. They've been existing, forever, and they're on record. And so we've got a legislature out there that is just squandering money on themselves, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But the thing is that we know we have the water shortage. We know that we can identify other places where we can actually build dams and hold that water in reserve and preserve water so that the droughts don't have the horrible effect that they're going to have today.
Then why don't they do it?
Yeah, why don't they do it? Because they're spinning it on a light rail or a speed rail, or they're spinning it on. They're not spinning it on roads. They're not spinning it on education. What the hell are they spending it on? Well, I'll tell you